I was sitting in my own living room, watching my mother-in-law and a complete stranger open a leather briefcase on my coffee table. It had been exactly 1 week since I married Diana. 1 week since I thought I had found the love of my life after 5 years of loneliness following my father's death. Now, Sandra Diana's mother sat across from me with a notary public spreading documents across the table like a dealer laying out cards. Diana stood beside her mother, refusing to meet my eyes. The papers in front of me were property transfer documents. They wanted me to sign over the 3 apartments I had inherited from my father. The same apartments Diana was never supposed to know about. Before I tell you how I ended up in this nightmare, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. If you have ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted with your whole heart, hit that like button right now. And please subscribe, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and protecting what matters most. Now let me take you back to where this all started, back to the inheritance that almost destroyed my life. I am 28 years old. My name is Charlton, and I work as an accountant for a mid-sized firm here in Portland. I have always been the cautious type, especially when it comes to money. My father taught me that. He raised me to be careful, to work hard, and to never take anything for granted. 2 years ago, he died in a car accident. It was sudden. One moment he was driving home from work on a rainy Tuesday evening, and the next moment he was gone. I never got to say goodbye. I never got to tell him how much I appreciated everything he did for me. Dad left me 3 apartments. 3 beautiful apartments in downtown Portland. He had spent his entire life working construction, saving every dollar he could, and slowly investing in real estate. 2 of those apartments were rented out to good tenants who paid on time every month. The rental income brought in about $3,000 monthly. The 3rd apartment was where I lived. Together, those 3 properties were worth approximately $1.2 million. It was not just money to me. It was my father's legacy. It was proof that hard work and discipline could build something meaningful. After he died, I made a decision. I would keep the inheritance private. I would not tell friends. I would not post about it on social media. I would not let anyone know what I had. This was not because I was ashamed or because I wanted to hide. It was because I had seen what money could do to relationships. My best friend in college had dated a woman for 2 years. The moment she found out his family was wealthy, everything changed. She started demanding expensive gifts. She expected him to pay for everything. When he refused to buy her a new car, she left him and spread rumors about him being cheap. That experience taught me something important. Some people see dollar signs before they see your heart. My father had given me one final piece of advice before he died, though I did not know it would be his last. We were sitting in his apartment drinking coffee on a Sunday morning. He looked at me and said, "Charlton, do not let people know what you have until you know what they want." At the time, I thought he was just being paranoid. Now I understand he was trying to protect me. After his death, I buried myself in work. I managed the rental properties carefully. I made sure the tenants were happy. I handled repairs promptly. But I was lonely. Deeply lonely. The kind of loneliness that sits in your chest and makes everything feel gray. I wanted someone to share my life with. I wanted what my parents had before my mother passed away when I was 12. I wanted genuine love. But I was terrified of attracting the wrong person for the wrong reasons. Then 4 months ago, I met Diana. It was a Thursday morning at my favorite coffee shop near my office. I was waiting for my usual order when someone bumped into me from behind. Hot coffee splashed all over my laptop bag. I turned around, ready to be annoyed, and saw her. Diana. She was 26 years old, with auburn hair and green eyes that immediately looked horrified at what she had done. She apologized profusely, insisting she would buy me a new laptop if mine was damaged. I checked. The laptop was fine. The bag had protected it. I told her not to worry about it, and somehow we started talking. We stood there in that coffee shop for 20 minutes just talking. She was funny. She was warm. She seemed so genuine. Diana told me she was a freelance graphic designer. She mentioned she lived with her mother, Sandra, because her father had passed away when she was young. Her mother had raised her alone, working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Diana said she valued simplicity. She did not care about fancy restaurants or expensive clothes. She just wanted honest connection. That made me feel safe. We exchanged numbers, and 3 days later, we went on our first date. Our first date was a walk along the Willamette River. No fancy dinner. No expensive wine. Just walking and talking for hours. She asked about my work, and I told her I was an accountant. She did not ask about my salary. She did not ask if I owned property. She just wanted to know who I was as a person. That felt refreshing. It felt real. Over the next 2 months, we saw each other constantly. We went to small neighborhood restaurants. We watched movies at the cheap theater on Tuesday nights when tickets were half price. We spent weekends hiking in Forest Park. Diana never once asked about my finances. She never hinted that she expected me to spend money on her. When I offered to pay for dinner, she insisted on splitting the bill half the time. This confirmed everything I had hoped. Diana was different. She loved me for me, not for what I had. I never mentioned the apartments. When Diana asked where I lived, I simply said I rented an apartment downtown. Technically, that was not a lie. I did live in an apartment downtown. I just happened to own it. She never questioned it. She never seemed suspicious. She accepted everything at face value, which made me trust her even more. 2 months ago, I proposed. We were back at the same coffee shop where we had met. I got down on one knee right there in front of everyone and asked her to marry me. She said yes immediately. Tears streamed down her face. She did not ask about a bigger diamond. She did not demand an elaborate wedding. She just said yes. I thought I was the luckiest man alive. I thought I had finally found someone who loved me for exactly who I was. We planned a small wedding, just close friends and a few family members. We rented a small restaurant in Portland for the ceremony and reception. It was intimate and beautiful. That was the first time I met Sandra, Diana's mother. She was about 50 years old, thin, with sharp features and calculating eyes that seemed to take in everything. She was polite to me, but there was something cold beneath the surface. During the reception, Sandra asked me a few questions about my work. I kept my answers vague, just like I always did. I noticed she watched me carefully when I spoke. The week after our wedding should have been the happiest of my life. Diana moved into my apartment. For the first 2 days, everything was perfect. We cooked dinner together, we laughed, we made plans for our future. But on day 3, something shifted. Diana asked me casually over breakfast if I had any savings or investments. I told her we would talk about finances soon, that we had plenty of time to discuss everything. She did not push, but I noticed a change in her expression. Something flickered in her eyes that I had not seen before. On day 5, Sandra called Diana. They talked for over an hour. Diana stepped out onto the balcony so I could not hear the conversation clearly, but I caught fragments. I heard Diana say, "I am working on it, Mom. Just give me time." That sentence made my stomach twist. Working on what? On day 6, Diana asked me directly if I owned any property besides the apartment we were living in. Her tone was casual, but her eyes were intense. I deflected. I said I had some investments, but we could discuss details later. She nodded, but she looked frustrated. That night I heard her on the phone again. This time I stood closer to the bedroom door. I heard her say, "He is being difficult. Maybe we need to just do it now." My blood ran cold. Do what now, day 7? Sunday morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee when the doorbell rang. Diana jumped up from the couch faster than I had ever seen her move. She rushed to the door and opened it before I could even set down my coffee mug. Sandra walked in, and behind her was a man I had never seen before. He was about 40 years old, wearing a dark suit and carrying a leather briefcase. My confusion must have shown on my face. Diana did not look at me. She just said, "Charlton, we need to talk. This is important." The man in the suit introduced himself as Eugene Harper, a notary public. Sandra sat down on my couch like she owned the place. Eugene set his briefcase on my coffee table and opened it with a practiced click. Diana remained standing, her arms crossed, still avoiding my eyes. I stood in the kitchen doorway holding my coffee mug, feeling like an intruder in my own home. Sandra spoke first. Her voice was calm but firm, like a businesswoman presenting a deal. "Diana told me about the 3 apartments you inherited from your father." The coffee mug nearly slipped from my hand. I looked at Diana. "You told her?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. Diana finally met my eyes. "She is my mother, Charlton. I had to tell her." Her voice was small, defensive. "Had to," I repeated. "Why did you have to?" Sandra interrupted before Diana could answer. "We are family now, Charlton. Family does not keep secrets from each other. Transparency is important in marriage." I set my coffee mug down on the counter and walked into the living room. "What is this about?" I asked, looking directly at Eugene. He smiled professionally. "I am here to help facilitate some estate planning. Very routine for newlyweds." Sandra pulled several documents from Eugene's briefcase and spread them across the coffee table. "These papers will transfer ownership of your 3 apartments into a family trust," she explained. "Diana and I will be co-trustees. You will still benefit from the properties, but this structure protects everyone involved. It is very common." I picked up the papers and started reading. My accounting background made it easy to understand legal documents. These were not estate planning papers. They were outright property transfer documents. If I signed them, I would be giving Sandra and Diana complete control over all 3 apartments. I would retain no ownership rights whatsoever. "This is not estate planning," I said, slowly setting the papers back down. "This is a complete transfer of ownership." Eugene shifted uncomfortably. Sandra did not flinch. "It is for the best, Charlton. It protects the assets in case anything happens." "In case what happens?" I asked. "We have been married for 1 week." Diana finally spoke up. "Do you not trust me? We are husband and wife now. What is yours is mine, remember." Her words stung. Not because they were wrong, but because of how she said them. There was an edge to her voice I had never heard before. Something demanding. Something entitled. "Trust has nothing to do with this," I said carefully. "These apartments are my father's legacy. He worked his entire life for them." Sandra stood up. Her friendly demeanor vanished. "If you love my daughter, you will sign these papers. It is just paperwork, Charlton. You will still benefit from the rental income. This just ensures everything is properly organized." I looked at the 3 of them. Sandra standing with her arms crossed. Eugene holding a pen waiting. Diana looking at me with an expression I could not quite read. Was it guilt, impatience, anger? I could not tell anymore. I need time to think about this, I said. There is nothing to think about, Sandra snapped. Either you trust Diana or you do not. This has nothing to do with trust, I said, my voice rising slightly. This is about legal ownership of property my father left specifically to me. Eugene cleared his throat. Perhaps we should schedule another meeting. Give Charlton some time to review the documents with his own attorney. Sandra shot Eugene a look that could freeze fire. We do not need another meeting. He can sign it right now. I took a step back. When did you find out about the apartments, Diana? The question hung in the air. Diana looked at her mother. Sandra's jaw tightened. Does it matter? Sandra asked. We know now. That is what is important. Diana, I said firmly. When did you find out? Diana's face went pale. Her eyes darted between me and her mother. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I found the property documents 2 weeks before the wedding. They were in your desk drawer. The room started spinning. 2 weeks before the wedding. She had known before she said her vows, before she promised to love me for better or worse. She had known about the inheritance and said nothing. So you married me knowing I had these apartments, I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. Diana did not respond. I looked at her, really looked at her, and asked the question that was burning in my mind. Did you know about me before we accidentally met at the coffee shop? Sandra stood up. That is ridiculous. You are being paranoid. But I was not looking at Sandra. I was looking at Diana, and I saw it. The flash of panic in her eyes. The way her hands started trembling. You called me by my name that day. I said, the memory suddenly crystal clear. At the coffee shop. You called me Charlton before I told you my name. Diana's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I must have heard the barista, she stammered. I used mobile order that day, I said. Nobody called out my name. How did you know who I was? The silence that followed was deafening. Sandra tried to speak, but I raised my hand. Do not. I want to hear it from Diana. Diana looked at her mother, then back at me. Tears started forming in her eyes, but they looked different now. They looked like tears of frustration, not sadness. Answer me, I said. She did not answer directly. She did not have to. The truth was written all over her face. The coffee shop meeting had not been an accident. She had known who I was. She had known about my inheritance. The entire relationship had been built on a lie. Get out, I said quietly. What? Sandra asked, shocked. Get out of my house. My voice was louder now, stronger. All three of you, get out right now. Sandra's expression turned vicious. You are making a huge mistake, Charlton. If you do not sign these papers, Diana will divorce you, and she will get half of everything anyway. You might as well do this cleanly. Eugene started packing up his briefcase. He looked uncomfortable, like he wanted to be anywhere else. Is that what this is? I asked, looking at Diana. A con you researched me, found out about my inheritance, staged our meeting, pretended to love me, and married me just to get access to my father's apartments. Diana wiped her tears. When she looked up at me, the mask was completely gone. Her voice was cold. Make your choice, Charlton. Sign the papers, or this marriage is over. I felt something break inside me. Not my heart. Something deeper. The last bit of naive trust I had left in people. But I also felt something else. Clarity. My father's words came back to me. Do not let people take what is yours. I looked at Sandra, then at Eugene, then finally at Diana. Get out of my house, I repeated, now. Sandra grabbed the papers from the table and shoved them back into Eugene's briefcase. You will regret this, she hissed. We will see you in court. Diana will get half of everything in the divorce. Eugene stood up quickly. I apologize, he muttered to me. I think there has been a misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, I said firmly. You tried to help them steal my property. You need to leave. Right now. Eugene hurried toward the door. Sandra followed him, but Diana stayed behind. She looked at me one more time. Can we at least talk about this? She asked, her voice soft again, trying to sound hurt. You had months to talk to me honestly, I said. You had weeks after you found those documents. You could have asked me directly. Instead, you lied. You married me under false pretenses. And now you brought your mother and a notary to my home to pressure me into signing away everything my father worked for. We have nothing to talk about. Diana's expression hardened again. She grabbed her purse from the couch. You are going to lose everything in court, she said. Then she walked out, slamming the door behind her. I stood in the middle of my living room shaking. The coffee I had been making an hour ago was still sitting on the counter, now cold. I looked around at the space that had felt warm and full of promise just days ago. Now it felt violated. They had come into my home. They had sat on my couch. They had tried to take everything my father had left me. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I had ever felt. But beneath the rage was something else. Determination. I picked up my phone and called Theodore Banks. Theodore had been my father's attorney and friend for 20 years. He was semi-retired now, but I knew he would help me. He answered on the third ring. Charlton, everything okay? His voice was warm, concerned. No, I said. Everything is not okay. I need your help. I told him everything, the whole story. Meeting Diana, the wedding, the hidden inheritance, Sandra showing up with Eugene, the documents, the attempt to pressure me into signing. Theodore listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long pause. Do not sign anything, he said finally. I mean it, Charlton. Do not sign a single document. Do not communicate with Diana or Sandra without me present. We are filing for annulment immediately. Annulment, I asked. Not divorce. Annulment. Theodore confirmed. If we can prove she married you under fraudulent pretenses, we can get the marriage declared void, as if it never happened. That means she gets nothing. But we need evidence, Charlton. We need to prove this was planned. That afternoon, I started digging. I opened my laptop and began searching for information about Diana. I searched her name, her social media profiles, anything I could find. Most of it was normal. Pictures of design work, photos with friends. But then I found something. A forum about relationships and money. The kind of forum where people discuss financial strategies in dating. One username caught my attention. The profile picture was blurry, but it looked like Diana. Same auburn hair, same facial structure. The username was DesignGirl26. I clicked on her post history. My stomach turned as I read. There were posts from 6 months ago asking questions like, how do you find out if someone owns property without asking directly? And what is the best way to build trust quickly in a new relationship? Another post asked, how long should you wait after marriage to discuss combining assets? I took screenshots of everything. This was not proof that the account belonged to Diana, but it was close enough to raise serious questions. The next morning, I called a private investigator Theodore recommended. His name was Jake Morrison. Jake was in his 50s, a former police detective who now ran his own investigation firm. I met him at a diner near my office. I explained the situation and showed him the forum posts. I need to know if Diana and Sandra have done this before, I said. I need to know if this was planned from the beginning. Jake nodded. Give me 3 days, he said. If there is something to find, I will find it. Jake called me 2 days later. You need to sit down for this, he said. We met at the same diner. Jake pulled out a folder and slid it across the table to me. Diana and Sandra have been running this scheme for at least 3 years, he said. I opened the folder. Inside were reports, photographs, and testimonies. Jake had found 2 other men. Both had dated Diana in the past 3 years. The first was a real estate developer named Marcus. He told Jake that he met Diana at a gym. They dated for 4 months. Right after they got engaged, Diana started asking about his properties. When he refused to put her name on the deeds, she broke up with him and threatened to sue for emotional damages. He paid her $10,000 to go away quietly. The second man was a finance manager named Robert. His story was almost identical to mine. He met Diana at a bookstore. She seemed perfect. Sweet, humble, uninterested in money. They dated for 5 months and got married at City Hall. 2 weeks after the wedding, Sandra showed up with a lawyer demanding Robert sign over his investment accounts to a joint trust. Robert had been smarter than me. He had a prenuptial agreement. When he refused to sign, Diana filed for divorce. The prenup protected him, but the legal battle cost him $30,000 in attorney fees. Jake also found records showing that Sandra had been sued twice for fraud. Once for attempting to manipulate an elderly widow into signing over her house. The case was settled out of court. The second case involved an insurance scam, again settled out of court. Sandra had never been convicted, but there was a clear pattern. They are con artists, Jake said. Professional ones. They research targets. Diana builds a relationship, they get married quickly, and then they pressure the victim into signing over assets. If the victim refuses, they threaten expensive legal battles until the victim pays them to go away. I felt sick. Everything had been a lie. The coffee shop meeting, the walks by the river, the simple dates, Diana saying she did not care about money. It was all calculated, all scripted, all designed to make me trust her. There is more, Jake said. He pulled out another document. I checked property records and online search histories. 3 months before you met Diana, someone accessed public records about your inheritance. The searches came from an IP address registered to Diana's laptop. 3 months before we met. She had been planning this before I ever saw her face. The rage I felt earlier came back, but this time it was cold, focused. Can we use this in court? I asked. Absolutely, Jake said. This is evidence of fraud and premeditation. Combined with the testimonies from Marcus and Robert, this should be more than enough for an annulment. I took the folder and went straight to Theodore's office. Tuesday afternoon, Theodore filed a petition for annulment in court. The grounds were fraud and misrepresentation. We attached all the evidence, the forum posts, the testimonies from Marcus and Robert, the property search records, the documentation of Sandra's past legal troubles. Theodore also filed a restraining order request asking the court to prevent Sandra and Diana from contacting me or coming near my property until the case was resolved. Diana responded by filing for divorce instead of responding to the annulment petition. Her attorney claimed the marriage was valid and that she was entitled to half of all marital assets acquired during the marriage. But Oregon law was on my side. The 3 apartments were inherited property acquired before the marriage. They were not marital assets. Still, Diana's attorney argued she deserved compensation for emotional distress and loss of consortium. They demanded $50,000. Theodore laughed when he saw the demand. "They are desperate," he said. "They know they are going to lose, so they are trying to get whatever they can. We are not giving them a penny." 2 weeks later, we had our first court hearing. It was just a preliminary hearing to determine whether the case would proceed to trial. Diana showed up with her attorney and Sandra. I sat next to Theodore. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Winters. She reviewed the filings and listened to both sides present their arguments. Theodore went first. He laid out the entire case methodically. He presented the evidence of Diana researching my property before we met. He presented the testimonies from Marcus and Robert, who both appeared in court to tell their stories. He showed the forum posts. He showed the pattern of Sandra's fraudulent behavior. Judge Winters listened carefully, taking notes. When Theodore finished, Diana's attorney tried to discredit everything. He claimed the forum account could not be definitively proven to belong to Diana. He said Marcus and Robert were disgruntled ex-boyfriends lying for revenge. He argued that even if Diana had researched me, that did not prove she married me for money. Then Theodore did something brilliant. He called Eugene Harper to testify. Eugene had been subpoenaed. He looked miserable sitting in the witness box. Under oath, Theodore asked him directly, "Did Sandra Rodriguez contact you before Charlton and Diana's wedding?" Eugene hesitated. "Answer the question," Judge Winters said. "Yes," Eugene admitted. "She contacted me 3 weeks before the wedding." "And what did she tell you?" Theodore asked. Eugene looked at Sandra, then back at Theodore. "She said her daughter was marrying a man with significant property assets. She asked if I could prepare trust documents that would transfer ownership to her and her daughter. She said it was standard estate planning for newlyweds." "Did she mention anything about Mr. Charlton being reluctant to sign?" Eugene nodded slowly. "She said he might need some persuasion. She asked me to emphasize that it was routine and common." Theodore presented phone records showing that Sandra had called Eugene 12 times in the 2 weeks following the wedding. He presented text messages where Sandra told Eugene, "We need to move fast before he talks to a lawyer." The evidence was overwhelming. Judge Winters called a recess. When we returned an hour later, her decision was clear. "I am granting the annulment," she said. "The evidence clearly shows that Ms. Rodriguez entered into this marriage with fraudulent intent. The marriage is hereby declared void. Mr. Charlton retains all property acquired before the marriage. Ms. Rodriguez's request for financial compensation is denied." Diana stood up furious. "This is not fair," she shouted. The judge banged her gavel. "Ms. Rodriguez, you will sit down, or I will hold you in contempt." Judge Winters was not finished. She looked directly at Sandra. "Ms. Sandra Rodriguez, the pattern of behavior documented in this case is deeply concerning. I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for possible criminal investigation. If you or your daughter contact Mr. Charlton again, you will face charges for harassment and possible fraud." Sandra's face went white. Diana's attorney tried to speak, but the judge cut him off. "This hearing is concluded." She banged her gavel one final time. 1 month after the hearing, life started to feel normal again. Diana and Sandra disappeared. I heard through Jake that they left Portland and moved to Seattle. I did not care where they went as long as they stayed away from me. Eugene lost his notary license after an ethics investigation. He had knowingly participated in an attempt to defraud someone. His career was over. I felt no sympathy. He had made his choice. The first few weeks after the annulment were hard. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Every conversation with Diana, every smile she gave me, every time she said she loved me. I wondered how I had been so blind. How had I not seen through her act? At night, I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like an idiot. Theodore told me not to blame myself. They are professionals, Charlton. They have done this before. They knew exactly what to say and how to act. You were not stupid. You were human. You wanted to believe in love. My friends rallied around me. People I had not seen in months came by to check on me. My friend Marcus, not the same Marcus Diana had conned, but a college buddy, told me something I needed to hear. I never fully trusted her man, he said. Something about her seemed too perfect, like she was performing instead of just being. His words stung, but they also validated my feelings. I was not crazy for feeling suspicious those last few days. The red flags had been there. I went to therapy. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, helped me process the betrayal. You did not do anything wrong by protecting your inheritance, she told me. Your father left that property to you, not to strangers. Keeping it private was not dishonest. It was wise. Diana's deception is not a reflection of your judgment. It is a reflection of her character. Those sessions helped. Slowly, I started to forgive myself for being fooled. I threw myself into work and managing the apartments. I fixed things that needed fixing. I improved the properties. I spent time with my tenants, making sure they were happy. One couple who had rented from my father for 10 years invited me over for dinner. Your dad would be proud of how you handled this, the husband told me. He always said you had a good head on your shoulders. Those words meant more to me than any court victory. I started volunteering at a local food bank on weekends. It gave me purpose beyond work and property management. I met people from all walks of life, people who were struggling but genuine, people who had nothing but gave everything they could to help others. It reminded me that good people still existed, that not everyone was out to take advantage. After a few months, I realized something important. I was not broken, hurt, yes, betrayed, absolutely. But not broken. I was still me, still Charlton, still my father's son. I visited my father's grave one Saturday afternoon. I sat on the grass next to his headstone and told him everything. I told him about Diana, about Sandra, about the court case. I told him how his advice had saved me. You told me not to let people know what I have until I know what they want, I said out loud. I did not fully understand what you meant, but I do now. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for protecting me even after you were gone. Sitting there in the quiet cemetery, I made peace with what happened. Yes, I had been deceived. Yes, I had trusted the wrong person. But I had also stood up for myself. I had protected my father's legacy. I had refused to be bullied or manipulated. I had won. Not just in court, but in the bigger battle of maintaining my integrity and dignity. That was worth more than any amount of money. It has been 6 months since the annulment. I still live in the same apartment. I still manage the same properties. But something inside me has changed. I am more careful now, yes, but not more closed off. I have learned to trust again, just differently. I have learned that protecting yourself is not the same as shutting people out. I have learned that healthy relationships are built on honesty, not on hidden tests or secret investigations. I went on a few dates in the past month. Nothing serious yet. I am taking my time. But I am open to the possibility of love again, real love. The kind built on truth from the beginning. The kind where both people show up as they actually are, not as carefully crafted performances. I know that person exists out there. I know because I have seen it in my friends' marriages. I have seen it in my tenants who have been together for 30 years. Real love exists. I just have to be patient enough to find it. The biggest lesson I learned from this nightmare is simple but profound. Protecting what matters is not selfish. My father spent his whole life building something meaningful. Those 3 apartments represent decades of early mornings, long days, and sacrificed weekends. They represent his hope that I would have a foundation to build my own life on. Protecting that legacy is not about greed or distrust. It is about honoring his sacrifice and his love. I also learned that real love never demands proof through material sacrifice. Diana asked me to sign over my inheritance as proof of love. But love does not work that way. Love does not say, "Give me everything you have to prove you care." Love says, "I want you to be secure and protected, even if that means protecting yourself from me until you are ready to trust." Love is patient. Love is honest. Love does not show up with a notary and a briefcase 1 week after the wedding. I learned to trust my instincts. Those last few days before Sandra showed up, I felt something was wrong. Diana was acting different. She was secretive. She was distant. I noticed it, but I talked myself out of trusting what I saw. I told myself I was being paranoid. I will never do that again. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Ignoring red flags to preserve hope is not optimism. It is denial. And denial almost cost me everything. Finally, I learned that being alone is better than being with the wrong person. Before I met Diana, I was lonely. I wanted companionship so badly that I was vulnerable to manipulation. But loneliness is temporary. Bad marriages, fraudulent partnerships, and toxic relationships can destroy your life. I would rather be alone and whole than coupled and broken. That does not mean I have given up on finding love. It just means I will never again compromise my boundaries or my safety for the sake of not being alone. I think about my father often. I wish I could tell him about everything that happened. I wish I could thank him in person for the wisdom he gave me. But in a way, I think he knew. I think he knew the world had people like Diana and Sandra in it. That is why he warned me. That is why he taught me to be careful. His voice still guides me even now. Whenever I face a decision, I ask myself what he would do. And usually the answer is clear. I am not bitter anymore. I am not angry. Diana and Sandra are living their lives somewhere, probably looking for their next target. That is not my problem anymore. I chose to let go of the resentment because carrying it was only hurting me. They do not deserve space in my head or my heart. What they did was wrong, but holding on to rage was not going to change what happened. It was only going to poison my future. So I let it go. Not for them. For me. Now I am focused on building the life my father wanted for me. A good life. An honest life. A life where I help people work hard and treat others with kindness while still maintaining strong boundaries. I am focused on being someone my father would be proud of. And I am focused on finding the kind of love that adds to my life, rather than trying to take from it. That kind of love exists. I believe it. And when I find it, I will recognize it. Because now I know the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves what you have. Maybe hiding my inheritance was not really about distrust. Maybe it was about protecting the memory of someone I loved deeply. And in the end, that memory saved me from losing everything. My father taught me to be careful. He taught me to protect what matters. He taught me that not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. Those lessons almost felt like paranoia when he first said them. But now I understand they were not paranoia at all. They were survival skills, and they saved my life. I stand in my living room now, the same room where Sandra and Eugene tried to take everything from me. But it feels different now. It feels like mine again. Safe, protected. A place where I can build whatever future I choose. The 3 apartments are still mine. My father's legacy is still intact, and I am still standing. That is what matters most. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to protect something important from people you thought you could trust? Have you ever discovered that someone you loved was not who they claimed to be? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories about life, love, and the lessons we learn along the way. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you protect what matters most in your own life. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember, real love never asks you to give up who you are. Stay strong.